It's all about Nigerians' indebtedness and our spending spree. Some call it spending culture. We are owing over hundreds of trillions of naira, and that isn't going down too well with many Nigerians. Some are saying that Mr. President made series of mistakes. For instance, removing subsidy, that is on one hand, on the other hand, floating the naira, that these are the two major factors hammering negatively on Nigerians. And of course, recently, an application was made for Mr. President to get a loan of $1 trillion or thereabout, and Nigerians are like, having this headache, and they're not happy about it. And of course, we still have states governors borrowing. My fear right now is with local government autonomy, hope they won't be given the right to go borrow. Because when you borrow and borrow and borrow, who is going to pay? How will a country survive? When you talk about borrowing, when we are borrowing, what are we using it for? And how is it impacting the development of this great nation? I won't be doing this alone. My colleague from Abuja Network Center, Joseph Kadri, will be in this mix in case he has questions to ask. My guest in the studio definitely will throw more light on it. Let me start by introducing my guest, the one sitting very close to me. He was one-time permanent secretary, Ministry of Agriculture, and of course, a Labour devotee, vice chairman of NLC, right, in Edo State. Join me to welcome Comrade Bashir Kadri. It's a pleasure to have you join us, sir.
Well, it's my pleasure being here, Wilson.
Right.
God bless Nigeria.
I'll say amen to that. So very close to him is an entrepreneur. Yes, a political analyst, political affairs commentator, and of course, he's a philanthropist. Join me and welcome Cosmos Osage. It's a pleasure to have you join us.
Thank you very much, Wilson. Good morning to you.
The next person is in the academics, knowledge impartation. He's into farming. He is a religious leader, also a very vibrant youth. Join me to welcome, yes, Alhaji Ahmed Iwaike. Welcome to TMI.
Thank you so much, Mr. Wixon. Good morning, viewers at home.
All right. Joining us virtually, if he's able to connect with us, he's not connected yet, but let me just introduce him in case he's able to join into the show. Destiny Nabulele, a political analyst, political affairs commentator, and of course, if he's able to join us virtually from Abuja, definitely would join us. And we're expecting also to join us virtually, Henry I hope I got that name correctly. Able to join us via, virtually, definitely is going to join us. And of course, Ojekere is trying to join us virtually. If you're able to join us virtually, why not? The more, the merrier. Let me start off with you, Comrade Kadri. Our debt profile, and of course, these are, how will I put it now, eagerness to go borrow money as a country. Is it not giving you a source of worry? Let's start off from there.
Well, Wilson, let me first start by saying that Nigeria is a country that is blessed with all that it requires to move as a country. Our status as the centerpiece of the black world is not an accident. It's by divine direction. Unfortunately, for every success, there are challenges that have to begin to land in the streets before you can begin to find success stories. For me, like I've always said, I don't lament, because lamentation don't give results. What they simply give is retrogression. We've been lamenting for so many years now, 64 years, right? And we are still where we are, even getting worse. So for me, I think it is time for Nigerians to sit back and think, how do we get back and drive our country better? Many countries have this same kind of experience many years before now. And they came out, and today they are standing as one of the flyers in the world. From Indonesia, to even China, to even Japan. For me, if I watch those histories, and they give me belief that we can come out strong. But back to the question you asked, very sincerely, I think borrowing is not a crime. What is a crime is what the amount money was used to do. The second crime is that if you do not have a plan before you borrow, you are bound to spend the money without getting results. And the third is that it is important to realize that everywhere in the world, people borrow money. Americans borrow money. A time was America was one of the largest borrower in the world. And at that time, there was a contestation. There was politics that was coming on board, and they asked a question. And we realized America was having about $4 trillion, if not more, as loan at that time. But what is important is that these countries have to deploy those funds. And deployment is because before the loans were even taken, there were plans for what we use the money to do. And we also have a business plan to say, okay, this is the return on investment of this loan you have taken. If we invest money and you borrow and invest, you can understand that there's return on investment, which will change your narrative and change your future. That is what I'm thinking we should be doing as a country. Now, the first is that why I'm not surprised. When this government came on board, I'm not sure they had any plan to begin to look at what Nigeria can be as a better country. We do regard the sensibilities of those people who believe in the government, who believe in their dissidents and all of that. I do too. But my worry was that you cannot make pronouncement on the day of your swearing in without a concrete plan on how to mitigate the consequence of those plans. For instance, you talk about the story of subsidy is gone. Subsidy is gone. Okay, fine. What do you want to do? You cannot be planning in the face of war. You plan before you go to war. If there are crises which you are afraid of, and of course you particularly said, I can see that what he did was out of anger. Nothing out of anger get results. What you get worse. What get result is when you think through. You do some critical reasoning and then put a program, what you want to do. I expected that when he came on board, if he's so sad about the subsidy issue and the scandal that was involved, which I also agree with, too much scandals, what he would have done was to say, okay, in the next 3 months, we are going to look at it and see how to come out of it.
All right.
Now, the second item you mentioned, which is the floating of the naira, that again was not even necessary. It was a function of the IMF and the Western world who want to ensure that we are subjugated permanently to begging. And that is why you find out that the IMF will give one story here, and when they give a policy statement to Africans, when you go back to their own area where they have a bigger seat, you have subsidy. If you go to the US, there's subsidy. Go to any country, there are subsidy in particular areas of importance. Why is it that the African people are said subsidy is not necessary? And every day they come to preach the stories and tell us all kind of stories. My take, as a summary, and I think we'll go on in discussion later, is that the Africans must pull out of this whole theater. Look at what China is doing. Chinese schools go to World Bank meeting and listen to them. When they finish talking, they say, you are your own. Now let me do my own. And today, Chinese everywhere, and they're making so much. They are in balance of payment surplus, balance of trade surplus. Means that their economy is not even in equilibrium. It's in surplus.
It's in surplus.
It's in surplus. American economy is in equilibrium. But in Japan and China economy, they are in surplus. Both balance of trade and balance of payment. What is the magic?
All right. I will come back to you, comrade. Well, Comrade Cosmos, you heard him talk about balance of trade, surplus, equilibrium, and the rest of them. And Nigeria is very, very far from equilibrium, from balance of trade, from surplus, and then is aching my heart to get to know the amount of money that we are owing, and we are still going out there to borrow. Federal will borrow, state will borrow. My fear now, local government autonomy, hope they will not go borrow it. Please take it up from there. What is our problem?
Mr. Wilson, thank you very much. Well, when it comes to borrowing as a nation to Nigeria, like he said, it's not wrong to borrow. Because basically we all know that for every business to succeed, there must be at some point borrowing. But it's the plan the government are putting in place to make sure that are these funds that are borrowed, are they spending it on the right things they are supposed to spend it on? And what baffles me so much is I begin to wonder, what are the collateral this government is giving to these people to borrow this money? Be it that it's me, it looks funny, but it's a very serious issue. When we keep borrowing, I read a publication. It says, I think 2 months ago, it was $6 billion that this current administration has borrowed. So I begin to wonder, are there plans to make repayments of this money that is not going to carry forward, linger forward to another government again? Because we've seen from time immemorial that when a new government come on board, all they do is to cast aspersion and blames on the previous administration. But now you are in power and you are on seats. What are you doing to make sure that your own time as the ruling party, as the ruling president, make these issues balance in your own administration rather than casting aspersion or blames to others? Like he has said, some pronouncements that were made on the first day of inauguration as the president were actually made from a personal or a grievance perspective, but were not tackled rightly. They were absolutely not tackled in the right way. So, but in all of this, when I did my research, I found out that India is the topmost country with the largest debt when it comes to in the world. So, and like he said, there is no country today that still does not work with subsidy. Even in America today, there are still food stamps that are given to, you know, those who are having some, you know, inabilities and all of that, physical challenged people, to support them. They take these food stamps to the mall and they get food. These are subsidies. But when you talk about subsidy in Nigeria, we tend to focus more on oil. We are not trying to diversify and look at other areas where we'll be able to what? Generate revenue. Look at the agricultural sector, for example. That is a sector that has been neglected. And every focus is on what? On oil. So if we can utilize other natural and blessed resources that we have in this nation, I think the borrowing spree would actually reduce, because we'll be able to utilize those mineral resources and other avenues to what? To enrich ourselves and our economy.
All right, all right. Well, the question now is, floating of the naira and about subsidy, is that really why we've not been able to get ourselves off this debt? Remember that one, is a former or seven government officials said they've been able to save 20 billion US dollars as a result of the removal of subsidy. And Nigerians are asking, where's the impact on the economy? Where's the impact in the society? Ahmed.
Thank you, Mr. Wixon. Removal of fuel subsidy actually was a good one, if only there was a backup plan or a plan in order for you to sustain the removal of the subsidy. But now you have removed the subsidy, as at that time the fuel price was still at within the 500 and something naira, and we were thinking from there we will see a growth in the economy of the nation. But as it stands now, fuel is now 100 and I bought this morning 1,090 naira. That's what I bought with now. And at the end of the day, a friend of mine asked me yesterday, are you not saying that you were subsidizing close to 800 naira for Nigerians before now? Now that you have removed the subsidy, you compare the 800 naira difference or 900 naira difference that you have been saving, that we are not paying for. If you actually compare it to the liters that we claim that we are consuming on a daily basis, definitely there would have been no reason for us to start going for borrowing of money any longer. By so doing, the naira ought to have been getting stronger. But the truth is that there are some certain underlying things that they are not telling us. Like I've always opined, until Nigeria becomes truly independent, there is no way we are going to move forward. We are yet to be truly independent. Somebody asked a question once and said, will you see this our presidential candidate, whenever election is coming forth, they all move abroad to either they go to UK, there's a particular house they go there, for Chatham House and others. He said, have you ever asked them the kind of agreement they are signing in that very particular place? Nobody have ever asked them. They will go to abroad, do one or two, they sign one or two agreement and come back. And at the end of the day, these agreements are to the detriment of the citizens. Rather, because with the blessing that Nigeria have, like as my father here, the retired PS have earlier said, that Nigeria being positioned at the position it is in Africa and the world, and it was not a mistake by God. And these white men, also called the IMF and other group of people, knows that by the time Nigeria stand their feet, they themselves will start coming back to this same country to be looking for job. So instead, let us crumble this country so that we continue to move over there. So that in order for us to continue to get, they continue to be using us as slave, as the case may be. So now the floating of the naira that they did, we are not getting the benefit as a stand as a citizen. Rather, it's giving us more hardship as a citizen. Now, the removal of the subsidy is not helping us as a citizen. Rather, we are getting more hardship as citizen. Now, if you check very well now, it's only those that have hearts now that cannot drive their vehicles now. Those who don't have hearts now, they've parked their vehicles now. So we need the president, or we need leaders that will be bold enough to cut off ties from these people that we are thinking are going to be our messiahs. Rather, they are the ones killing us, until we cut off these ties from them and become truly independent, like the way the Indians make themselves to be truly independent and other countries. There's no way Nigeria will move forward. We will continue to have this kind of stories here and there, because they are still there manipulating us. Until we have this leader not going there and say, I want to become president, how do you support me? Okay, we will support you to be, but you will do this for us. Until you contest an election without them, and if the people want you and you win, then you will be able to have that will, the political will to do things. All these people does not have the political will. Only God knows what they've signed with them, and that's why they are. In fact, when IMF come with anything, okay, they will just hook in like that without considering the adverse effect on the citizens.
All right, now let's get to hear what Joseph Kadri question will be on this particular discussion. Joseph, over now to you. Joseph, it's like we are having this audio issue. We cannot hear you. We can't hear you, Joseph. Can you please rephrase your question?
Okay, I started by saying that the discussion is an interesting one. I don't know if you can hear me.
I can now, yes.
Okay, then Anand said I will ask Ahmed and Osage some questions. And then for Osage, when you look at this issue of borrowing, it is never going to end, especially when it is captured in the budget. Most time when the budget is passed, Nigerians just clap their hands and say, well, the budget is passed, so it means that the proposal I have in certain ministry or in certain agency will really come to fruition. Nobody really take time to, look through the document. How much is Nigeria going to generate internally? How much is coming from oil and non-oil? And then what is the gap? The gap, most time, the government fund it with borrowing. So the question now is, to Osage, what do you think Nigeria can do as a country to ensure that each time we make budget proposal, the aspect of borrowing should be exempted? What can we do? And then, of course, to Ahmed, who is talking about the subsidy removal, and of course, it is really harsh for the economy generally. It is state of the nation like we have on our screen. It is not the center alone that has the ability to fix the economy. I think we should be asking the question. The local council now have autonomy over resources. The state government also, of course, their resources is untampered. Why are we not asking the local council? Why are we not asking our various chairmen? Why are we not asking state governments what they are doing with allocation? These are my questions.
Right. Over now to you, Osage. He said the first shot is for you.
Okay, well, thank you so much. If I heard him correctly, he said, what can we do to make sure that we exempt ourselves from having that opinion of borrowing whenever this time comes? Well, the thing is, I'm not privileged to have those data with me, but I think what is best of an interest of every leader to do is to actually be transparent. Be transparent. And when it comes to accountability, make sure that you're accountable. Let us know exactly what these funds are going to be used for. But first of all, I understand that we can't do without borrowing. But for me, currently, it seems like it's like a default mindset that whenever a new project wants to come on, we should just go straight first to borrow. So, but if we could maximize our potentials, our resources, first of all, to make sure that we have our own reserves, then it will not be a default in the heads of every leader to say, I want to run over and borrow. So let us first of all make sure that these leaders, they are able to give us a template that is transparent. Let the leadership style be very, very transparent. Then we'll be able to now see what they want to do, what they intend to do with those funds. Then we'll be able to bring out factors to mitigate the amount and the process at which these borrowed funds are being used.
All right, now, Ahmed, now your question before we go on a break, Ahmed.
Yes, thank you for the question. The local government actually have a bigger role to play, because the essence of coming up with the local government sector was actually for the governors to be closer to the people. But though the aim is almost being defeated, because most of them do not follow suit again. I listened to one of the governorship candidates during the time of the election that when he was a local government chairman, he had a farm, a local government farm in Aho. He had a local government farm that generated funds for the local government, and he also built, he brought electricity even down to the local government line. So local government now on their own can generate funds, can also generate resources, can also involve in farming, for example, to make food surplus for these people. Then coming back to the state government, what are they doing with the money or the resources, or how do they intend to also help the economy? Yes, since the advent of the removal of the fuel subsidy, the federal allocation have increased that the state governors get every month. Now, the state governments, the only benefit we have gotten from some of them is that they gave us, they subsidize transportation with their vehicle. But you will agree with me that so many persons will not be opportune to enjoy that free transportation services. And they also gave us some palliative. You also agree with me that, in fact, those who got the palliative are not even up to 20% of those people who got the palliative. What I would have loved them to do is that, like those states started a modular refinery. If those modular refinery were actually working to capacity, then there will be a lot of fuel supply. And by so doing, the price of this fuel will also come down. That one will also aid the citizens to also get a cheaper fuel to buy. Two, they can also improve the transportation system. By the time they improve the transportation system, get more vehicles on the road, that will also help those who are unable to fuel their car to also enter a cheaper transportation system. Then the other money they also get us good roads. Once these good roads are there too, then we can always have a shorter cut in order for us to minimize our fuel consumption. If I always use my case as a case study, I live in Upper Sakmoba and I worked at Ipobai. There's a shorter cut from Upper Sakmoba down to the Ipobai. But that road was ignored because of, there's a bridge that they're going to do close to the Guinness, to Guinness, that will link to. If these roads are done, instead of me burning my fuel to go this direction, I can cut it like this, and at the end of the day, to save me some fuel. By so doing, you're also helping the economy by so doing that. So they should invest in farms too, that they can get more food for us to be eating. So with that alone, they also be helping the federal government, so that the federal government and the body will not be too much on the federal government. Money that they are realizing from the subsidy, they are just giving it to governors for governors to be, I don't know what they are using to do, whether to enjoy themselves. I don't know.
India is heavily indebted. US is heavily indebted. We have some top-notch countries that are in debt, but the economy is doing just fine. What are they doing that we as a nation, we are not doing? After all, the debt profile of India is far higher than that of Nigeria. The debt profile of US is by far higher than that of our beloved nation. So what is your own key that we don't have, Comrade Bashu?
Well, Wilson, I will tell you for free that first challenge we have as a people is that we have this syndrome of blame game, passing buck at every opportunity. We blame anybody and everything without considering what we call introspection, self-examination. How much have we done to examine ourselves as a people, the followers and the followed? That is one. Two is that if you look at bigger countries and know their history, I think we always lost track of history. History is one of the strongest protector and guardians for any society to grow well. Now, the pitfalls, if you know the Japan before the World War, Hiroshima and Nagasaki War, you understand that something serious had happened to Japan. Japan cleared that for 10 years, nobody was going, nobody was coming out. It said, "Must stay here, gentlemen, develop our country. It's either we make a difference or we are all dead." And they all sat back. After 10 years, Japan opened their doors. It was like a boom. Because everything was, there was a convergence. Research, agriculture, all of this came together. And they have to now direct the course properly. Today, Japan is one of the best countries in the world. There's no home in the world that will not have Japanese product. Either a calculator, a wristwatch, or just mention them. Of course, cars are high profile. And today, they are still on. A time was the United States wanted to trample them, and what they did, they told them, the senior Bush went to Japan and told the Japanese president, why not make your currency convertible? Because your currency is too low. Make it convertible so that it can be high. So that we can make your currency the convertible in the Eastern Bloc. And of course, Japan said, no, don't worry, we're okay with what we have. Today, Japanese yen is still lower than American dollar. But you know what? Japan had the best economy. They are in surplus. That's what I'm saying. They are in surplus. And so you cannot contest that. Now, the point I'm making is this, which is very important for Nigeria, is that let us now sit down. What is wrong with us? What are we doing wrongly? What are we not harnessing? In the universities, you have research. They're in the shelf. They're in the shelves. There's hardly any connect between research and in our field. The one you find in the field are simply the middleman who decide to say, let us introduce something to the system. In agriculture, we have what we call the extension agents. How much have we empowered them to do the extension work? What have we invested in knowledge to drive our economy? Are we just putting money without knowledge driven? Nobody runs a system without knowledge driven. It must be knowledge driven. So it can be guided with a structure that is defined on what you want to get. From the beginning, you tell yourself, I am doing this plan because I'm going to anticipate to get X, Y, Z. As somebody who did some level of farming, I want to do some farming, and I'm telling myself, okay, look, I want to start this project. By starting this project, what am I going to do? I'm going to plant X, Y, Z number of plantain suckers. I'm going to do this number. This space I'm going to use will carry this number of suckers. What is the cost implication? What is the economics? And I draw the economics like that, and I can say, okay, at the end of the day, I'm going to spend X amount of money. This is my return on investment. So that even if I now decide to borrow, I'm anticipating I'm going to get this. I also gave room for incidentals, that in case I have a challenge, this challenge will be swallowed by this fund, and I'm still within the plan. So now where I'm going to is this.
Yes.
Is that as a country, first is that we lost track with our foundation. Local government had gone. It disappeared out of the radar. The state government, okay. And then it started collapsing. What happened is that we were living a false life.
Living a false life.
We're living a false life.
Fake life.
Living in pretense and believing that we are superstars and we are great boys. We carry our shoulders and all of that because we had oil. Now the oil has told us, taught us a lesson. That this oil is not managed by you, it's managed by the world. The world economy determines what price this oil is sold and what is bought.
Okay.
How do you explain that to people? Now, finally, Wilson, I'm making this short, and I'm going to tell you that in clear terms, let Nigerians sit down. Let us now sit down and stop blaming. Let us look at our system. We have everything we require. Wilson, there's nowhere in Edo, for instance, that you cannot plant a commodity and get it. There's no Edo local government does not have a competitive advantage in agriculture. There's none. And tell me, my dear, if you don't have food in your house, are you a father? Have all the money in the world and there's no food in the house. Children will curse you like a curse father. Now, let us first of all, as Nigerians, sit down and how do we make our food security strong?
Food
Once
security.
we get our food security strong, the other
All
things
right.
will be an addition.
I will come back to you, comrade. Well, as an entrepreneur, Osage, people are like saying that the reason why we are where we are is because of the bunch of advisors that we have, economic advisors that we have as a country. After all, Mr. President can just assume office and say subsidy is gone. Let's start floating the naira. He might have listened to one or two persons because these same countries have mentioned, India, US, you just name it, Germany, France, they are indebted, but they have a way of balancing it and they have these keys. I'm not saying that the key that they have is because of the economic advisors. Is that where we are lacking?
Mr. Wilson, having a bunch of advisors is not the problem. There's a saying that says 2 good heads is better than 1. So automatically it means that 100 bad heads is not better than 1 good head.
What are you insinuating?
So if you have a bunch of advisors that are advising you wrongly, it means the outcome of any input you are going to take from that advice you got is going to be wrong. So when you have been advised, it is left for you to go to your scoreboard, go to your chambers, scrutinize those advices and look for the best option from those advices that will be suitable for your people. But what we see today, reverse is the case. So when I'm advised, first thing they do is they look at which one is going to favor them first of all. Go down the history of Benin, for example. Like our father has said here, the natural resources we have in terms of agriculture is there. But good, you are going to plant those suckers of plantain. If you, at the end of the day, maybe you had a lot of bountiful harvest, which I pray you are going to have because our land soil is very fertile. How are you going to transport that plantain from point A to point B? Where is the road? Where is the road? Is it the one they went to put signboard that is federal road? And those, you see, when I heard after the inauguration that they were going to do the flyover at Ramat, I laughed. It's very good. Now, we had flyovers before in Benin. We had.
Where?
Okay, you see, sometimes we don't listen very well. When you say where, it's a very interesting question to ask where. The bypass we see today, they are bypass that had flyovers. That it still has, but they were not maintained. When you go do your research, what's the meaning of a flyover? It's an intersection that cuts across another road to divert traffic. Those bypass, when they were done to mitigate local traffic, so that goods and commodity will be able to move around and not affect local traffic. So if these roads were done, look at the deplorable state of the bypass here at after Oluku now. You cannot even take it and go through the other one leading to Auchi, for example. So if these roads are done, let's say you borrow money and you fix this road, then when the produce is gotten from the farmer who wants to sell, which at the end of the day is going to boost the economy, it's going to be easy for that farmer to take it from point A to point B. And you see what the current governor has done, a very bold step by first of all putting a halt to these revenue collections and all of that. Because at the end of the day, when that farmer takes that goods to the market, the union people are there waiting for him. And they begin to tell you, this plantain that you've brought, you must sell it at this price. So you see that everything we go around in cycles are done to affect our own self. Like he has said, we need to go back to the scoreboard, look at how we can work independently to make sure that our economy is viable enough for us first.
All right. Now, we have an Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala. We have an addition, and these guys are seasoned and they are doing well where they are. World Trade Organization director. We have the, what's the popular addition handling? About finance and the rest of them. And people are like saying that with these persons coming out, Nigeria shouldn't be where we are. That means we have good brains that can strategize economically to take us out of this quagmire. What is really the problem, Ahmed?
Yeah, the problem is the political will of the man in power. Are you getting what I'm saying now? So there are amount of advice I can give, but I am not the one to execute. So the person executing have the final say. We quite agree we have Okonjo-Iweala, we have Adesina, we have other good brains worldwide. Okay, look at our first class CBN governor before now, Soludo. But now he's a governor now. I don't think Anambra is becoming a one of the first class states in the country now. So one thing is for you to be able to propound theories. Another thing is for you to be able to put them into working. So that power of execution is where the issue is. And the political will for you to actually say, let this thing move. See, let me tell you, there are persons that are stronger than the government, within the country. They are the ones sabotaging so many things that are not moving forward. So many sectors, if you try to put them in the right perspective, there are some persons who are hell-bent to say, okay, these things will not work. And they have all the resources to fight you back. Ahmed Lawa, for example, the former House of Rep member, was trying to curb this issue of this subsidy issue. What happened to him? He was set up by another bourgeois. Today, his case is packed to one corner. That man cannot voice out anywhere again in the world. He would have even blamed himself. I wish I had known that, because it is right not to even come to say I want to solve problems. Now, Kojo Iweala will propound theory, for example. Oh, this is how you are going to fix the economy. But then when you get to the table of the big man, another bourgeois is there to say, you will not do this thing, no, because it's going to affect some businesses or some aspects. Because we don't have Nigeria at heart. These countries are moving forward. They have the country in a blueprint, and nobody dares to stop the blueprint. No matter who you are, that blueprint must move. That was why Barack Obama said, Africa, Nigeria need a strong institution, not strong men. But what we have is a stronger men, not the institution. So now we have plans. Okay, let's move. So the strong man will tell you, this one not go work, because at the end of the day, it's going to spoil his business. He's after his business. He's after making more billions. And that billions is not being kept here. It's given to the white men to be enjoying themselves, and he cannot repatriate them.
Wow.
You understand? So the issue now is that even if you bring in Okojo, you think Okojo will have never advised the President Tinubu. He must have done that. Do you think Adesina must have not advised President? He must have done that. But the ability for Mr. President to put it into perspective is the problem. That was why some of us voted for him, because we believe that, one, in terms of politics, is a general. In terms of wealth, is another mogul, as in a very wealthy man. So we thought with this, he would have been able to break some wings of these bourgeois. With us, well, you don't have this thing more than me. You don't. So, but we are surprised that these bourgeois, whether they have some dark powers they are using, I wouldn't know. If that Gote himself could shout and say, "Hey, men, so it is the men, the few men. How do we break those few men? Don't have the power to execute."
Recent, the Senate or the House had to approve the borrowing of Mr. President, and it's like, come on, subsidy out. Someone said we gained when I was still gaining 20 billion US dollars, and we are still in this state. What is going on? What is our problem? Is it political? No, that'll be the next round of question. But let's get to hear from my colleague in the Abuja Network Center. Joseph, do you have some more questions from the guest in the studio?
All right. It's a good one. I just want to look at the solution side. You know, whatever discussion we have, that should be some bit of solution profile, so that authority listening can take a note and, of course, work with it if they so wish. And so I have a question for Comrade, who, of course, talked about one of the things that we need to get the economy stimulated and get it working. And it is an aspect that many countries of the world have used to grow their economy. I'm talking about agriculture. Yes, Edo State, for example, has, fertile land. But the issue remains that it is no longer encouraged by the people, by parents, by traditional rulers. They no longer encourage farming because of the weight that this quick money comes with. You know, those in the cyber world, what they do when the money enters for them and how they spend the money. It's nothing compared to a man who tills the land from January to December, and then at the end of the day, he gets peanuts. So on the solution side, Comrade, what can the government do to reverse rural-urban migration. Because as it is now, the lands are there, empty and barren. No one is there. If you travel to most of these areas, Edo North, Edo Central, Edo South, you go to the interiors, the villages, you see beautiful houses with no one in. Beautiful environment with, of course, some infrastructure, but people are not on the ground to, use the infrastructure so, constructed. So what can be done to reverse the trend? If you have urban-rural migration to an extent, and you have some improved seedlings with, some to aid mechanized farming, I'm sure more people will go into that. But what can be done? What do you think government can do to, first of all, get people, those that are in the city and not really productive, back to the rural community? And then for Osage, when it comes to agriculture, many countries of the world have really moved in terms of value addition to what is produced. Conversion of apple to apple juice, orange to orange juice, and the list is endless. We have many of those in Edo State. What can be done to add value to what is produced? They say government has no business in business, but it's not true in the real sense. Government should, to an extent, have business in business in their own way. So what can you say in this regard to ensure that there's value addition? Because we believe that addition to an extent will employ a whole lot of persons in the community. So these are my questions.
But to your comment, Bashir, you heard him.
Yeah, let me thank you, Kadri, for taking time to listen to us. Let me say this clearly. First, like I said earlier today, one of our challenges is that we have lamented so much and no result has been given to us. So when you're asking, how do we solve this problem? I will tell you this for free. At the 3 levels of government, we have the capacity to change the narrative. The truth is that if today we want to do something, we get the academics, sit down with us. There are what we call improved seedlings that can give you twice the production capacity of a small space of land, and you'll be amazed. For instance, if you plant plantain and you have what we call the Agbagba X, and you have the filler, you'll find out that Agbagba X gives you a bigger bunch, almost twice the bunch that you will harvest from the other species. If you want to plant cassava, you have the TMI 419. That will give you almost twice the yield, near 20 tons, between 15 and 20 tons, as against the one you will plant that you will get 10 tons. If you want to plant rice, you have the Faro 44. That will give you almost twice the yield, even not 3 times. Because what you call a large ISA in the rice plantation, it gives you 1.8 tons, whereas the Faro 44 gives you within the neighborhood of between 4 and 8 tons. What that means is that when you apply proper agronomy practice and you deploy what is required to run that process, you are going to get maximum 8 tons. Just imagine between 1.5 to 8 tons. Look at the difference. Let's even assume that plus minus, there are weather situations, there are bacteria and all of that. It gives you 4 tons, which still means that you are having about 100% production in that particular planting material. So what I'm trying to say here is in oil palm. In the oil palm sector, when you plant Tenera, your production capacity becomes almost twice higher than what you normally have gotten if you had planted the other Persevera or Dura. Now, what am I saying here? These materials are now existing. There are also researches that are now going to say, okay, let us bring what we call the drought-resistant material for planting that can survive the drought. We have these materials. All we need to do, like I said, is for us to remove these egocentric tendencies. I'm a big boy. Big empty when you have no food to eat. How can you explain, for God's sake, that you are a Yahoo guy, you have all the money, billions in your room, and there's no food? You go around looking for food, you can't find food to buy. That is the beginning of the crisis. What we have today is because there's no food. If there was food, we would have less comment, less complaint, less aggression, and people would be more sane. Now you have so many insanity in the streets because people can't eat. And when they cannot find food to eat, whatever they see, they want to buy. So it is important that my advice is that, like I always said, I believe in solutions, not in lamentations. Yes, lamentations, if you want to say, okay, there are problems, look at the problems, certainly yes. But what makes you get result is how you solve those problems.
All right.
They should be what we call materials for your success. No success is gotten without challenges. So challenges are functional requirement for success stories. So what I'm trying to advise is this. Every state government in Nigeria should sit down and do what we call a demography of her farming content, including land space, including farmers, including material planting, and all of that. Let's connect. We are getting to a point here, gentlemen, that we have got to the wall. It's either we think or we collapse. Now, it's not a question of again saying, John, Peter, blaming everybody. No, in your own small cocoon, what are you doing? How do you explain to me that you are a farmer who goes, you are a market woman who goes to a farm to buy things from the farmer? You tell the farmer that the thing you are producing is almost rotten. If you don't give me, I will just go. That one now, out of constraint, will give you and say, carry away.
All right.
You get to the market, that price, you bought it there, it's now times 3 the price. And you are explaining to me that you are blaming president, blaming governor. Sit back and think.
Thank you.
What role are you playing? So for me, our first attempt is for us to do our demography in agriculture.
Thank you.
Let's do the demography and then situate our agric and then develop it.
Thank
and
you
I
so
tell you,
much.
in the next 1 year, we'll begin to see fundamental difference from local government to state government to federal government.
Thank you so
finally,
much.
And finally, we'll see now. I'm sorry I'm taking too much time from you. Finally, is that the federal government must now sit back. Let us now, if we do a demography, we can situate properly who are the real farmers, who are the political farmers, who are the criminals. Because in agriculture, when today loans are given, I sympathize with sometimes leaders in our country. They come out with loan facilities. Oh, we want to develop agriculture. Put the money in agriculture. Before you call Jack Robin, the list of people that will come and apply for that, a lot of them are criminals who pretend to become farmers. At the end of the day, when the loans are given, because loans are supposed to be revolving, when loans are given, you won't see them pay back. When they ask them to go and pay back, the traditional routes are not coming to beg you and are coming to harass you in your house, coming your family member, looking for your lineage to go and talk to, that you stop. It's just ordinary money.
Thank you. You're speaking like a permanent secretary that you are. That's weird.
I'm coming.
Thank you. Please anchor.
Yes. Now, so what I'm trying to say is this, is that let us now sit down and do a very serious democratic study of what our agricultural requirements are, content are. Right. We have so much in our potential.
Thank you so much, comrade. Thank you so much. I know you have so much to do with
so we can invest
knowledge. As a former PS of Agric in Edo State, I understand. Now, Osai Gilbert, now to you briefly, please. We're about to call it a wrap on this segment.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. The former PS has given me
something to think about.
I'm telling you, so yes. Serious. I was getting some data and some names I've never even heard before in my life. And it shows to you that he has really done his due diligence in that particular ministry. And he's going to even do more. So you see, I think his question was, he was talking about, does government have a business in
doing
government?
business?
Yeah. It's very, very necessary. What the government needs to do today to help this agricultural sector, like he was saying now, the farm produce are there. How do they convert it to get juice and all of that? The government, first of all, need to work on insecurity. Once these insecurities are tackled, then the whole idea of ministries or government-owned properties being privatized should be limited. Once these are limited, it will help us a long way that these facilities are owned by government are running it and is operational by the government. Then at the end of the day, we'll know that there are facilities and there are industries that are helping us do mass productions of these things so that when the farmers go from the grassroots, from the rural areas, get their produce, the government facility, which will also be another source of employment for the youths and for the people, will then in turn process these raw materials Like you're talking about apple, for example, they will be able to process it to get the juice we want and follow the right standard in producing those particular items. So my advice is that we should all go to the scoreboard, work out a model, bring in like minds, not the advice that you are getting from 10,000 people that is not good. Bring in like minds and work a model that would help us modify and utilize our facilities and make sure that we are getting adequate results as much as the input we are putting in to it. That's my advice.
The question now is, Ahmed, before calling to wrap on this segment, is our problem political? You talked about bourgeois, some call them cabals. It'll be like, look, sir, we know you are the president, but don't go there. Business will be affected. Our business, putting their own business, putting themselves first before the country. That is for internal cabal. What about the external cabals that we had? You ask a question, what do they go to Chatham House to sign? What kind of them would go to Chatham House, they go to US? What are they really signing? Is our problem political? Particularly, put on us so that we will not exceed a particular level as a country, despite the minds that we have in this country.
Thank you. The answer is yes. The problem we have is political. If you see Nigerian blueprint, President Bola blueprint, Bola have entered now his own blueprint, you would think Edo State will become Dubai in the next 8 years. But unfortunately, let me not have that kind of negative notion yet. Because when Obaseki came, in fact, there's a plot of land in Sapele Road that was kept for industrial park. In fact, we have so many MOU that was signed with so many of these vehicle companies that think will be assembly plants. None of them see the light of the day. Gelegele Seaport, we were thinking it will start working. None of them saw the light of the day. Not that there was no willpower, but the political will was no longer there to fulfill it. Now, we've also looked at another airport to be in a donut. But now the land will be marked out now. Nothing is being done. Because why? You know why? The political power is not there. Somebody should go and ask why General Muhammadu Buhari was, removed from power at the military regime. Something went under the ground. Somebody told him to do some certain things. We said no, it will be adverse to this country. But the end result of it was that a coup d'etat took place and he was removed from power. Now, what we are saying is that we need a leader that can sacrifice. Even if it cost him his life, Nigeria will become a better place for us to live. But none of them is willing to do that. Even at the level of the president, at the level of the governor, at the level of the local government chairman, we are deceiving ourselves. They're not deceiving, but one of them is willing to do it. And any of them that is willing to take the bull by the horn, Nigeria will become a better place for us to live in. I'm telling you, we have all it takes to become, in fact, the giant of the whole entire world. Honestly speaking, is it population? You know the blessing we have with this human resources that we have? You know the blessing that it is? That we have this population is a big blessing. Is it the soil? How many earthquakes have you ever seen that happen in Nigeria? We have a stable soil, a stable land, that things will move very well. Is it the sea? We have the sea that we can import this, we will choose to win. You are talking about, is only all here that we have that we are about to start importing, and if they agree, allow Dangote. If they allow Dangote to do the right thing, then we will start doing that and be getting forest. But if they did not also allow him, because people are making money from importation of oil, we are aware that some bourgeois have refinery in Malta. So the bourgeois have refinery in Russia.
Call them cabals.
Cabals. Yeah. Then at the end of the day, those men that have invested in those, you want them to say, okay, Dangote, start doing the job so that our company will go down. No, they will not. So you now need a powerful man who will be in the aim of affairs to say, no, this thing must stop. Even if it cost him his own entire life. Did you listen to Okonjo Iweala when his mother was kidnapped? Did you listen to the then NAFDAC woman, that Professor... you know what happened to her when she tried to clear the mess in the NAFDAC in the drug industry? Remember, whoever is going to fix this country must be ready to sacrifice, whether it is his life or any of his relatives. They work, but none of them is willing. So for we to say Nigeria will get better in the nearest future, my brother, I don't want to be a prophet of doom or somebody who will be believing that, but my brother, just forget it. The willpower is not there. Only that willpowerful man is what we want. That at the end of the day, things will start moving well. That is what's awesome.
All right, gentlemen, our time is up. I know you have so much to say, but take a look at Japan, like what comrades said. They said they shut down, they shut the world outside to walk inside. Can't we do it as a country? We have the oil. Now we have our refineries. We have human resources, we have the land. What is preventing us? Who is this country scared of? The people are like saying that it's like we're taking commands from a very big country, maybe from the West, from Europe. We don't know where this command is coming from. You want to do something, get to hear them say, don't do this, don't do this, do this, do this, just remain where you are. Comrade, you have the last line of this discussion, advice to our leaders that are so scared of their second term in speak. If I should do this one now, my second term will not be guaranteed. They are putting politics and personal interest before the country. Because I know we can do this.
Well, I'll tell you this for free, Wilson,
Yeah.
that the Nigerian experience and African experience, Nigeria seems to be a summation of the African experience because, of course, of several advantages that Nigeria had, population and all of that, and potential economic costs. But you see, the truth is this. I am not, like I've always said, I'm not somebody who laments. I do not believe that it's impossible. Once it is thinkable, it is doable. The power of any country, like somebody said, ideas rule the world. It is lack of ideas that you will now begin to say somebody is the one not making you progress. You're blaming people, you're blaming the West. The West want to be the West and remain on top. You also have a right as a people to think of how to come out. Look at the young man, is it in Mali or in Niger, one of these countries?
Burkina Faso.
In recent times, he has changed the story. There's now a change of the narrative.
That's a weak power.
In Nigeria, it is practicable. And I'm saying here that Nigeria have the capacity. In just one touch, we are there. Yes, they have killed our leaders before. Murtala Mohammed was killed. He was killed because he simply said, Africa has come of age. And no continent should come and decide for us what we do. As nobody decides for America or anywhere else what they do.
And Gaddafi was killed
And
also.
that's exactly what he told them. And then he was killed.
Exactly.
Of course, it's part of the process of getting there. And for me, I tell you one funny thing. Anybody that tells me it's not possible, I tell him no, except God says it's not possible. I'll tell you the truth. When you now say that I am in charge, nothing will happen. That's where something will happen. And the story will be different. The West are talking to us. Look at Trump. Trump told us that he hates the blacks. Trump said it clearly. I don't like Africans. I don't like Arabs. That is a signal that should begin to think, give us a second thought as a people, as a continent. I tell you, the West need us to make themselves remain the way they class. And that is why they must not allow us grow. I sympathize with them. And that is the competition in the world. You can't just sit down and say people will come and give it to you to eat. No. The man giving you, there's no free lunch anywhere. The lunch that will come to you, either you are paying now in cash or in kind or later. You will pay one day. So my own take is this, is that Nigerians, we have the potentials. And I tell you, that potential is already close by.
Thank you.
Our lamenting now, we are complaining, we are already close to that point.
Thank you.
Now the truth is that finally, my dear, the truth is that if people were seen, look at what happened to Cuba. The Cuban president was to be killed. The Cubans were highlighted to kill him, and they refused. And what happened? The Americans today don't like Cuba because Cuba says we must have our country.
Thank you so much.
Nigeria, I challenge all of us. Forget this issue of pointing finger to president, the governor, and all of that. The small cocoon you are, make a difference.
Make a difference. Thank you so much.
Aggregate us to a better country.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. I appreciate a wonderful analysis. Thank you so much, Ahmed. I know you have so much to say. Thank you so much, Cosmos. I know you have too much to say. And of course, our comrade Bashir Kadiri, thank you so much for the lecture. And of course, to my colleague in the Abuja Network Center, thank you for your questions. This is what we'll call it a wrap on this segment.